The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Well, good Monday afternoon, and welcome to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us. You can also hit us up on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Just look for Black Focus Radio. Don't forget the podcast. If you miss any part of the show, if you're tooling across the country and you want to, hey, let's listen to Black Focus Radio, or maybe you got a friend who's not hip to the show, say, look, let's go out to this podcast. Let's search for Black Focus Radio. Is on any podcast platform. I think we are up to 11 different ones at this point. Don't forget to like, share, and certainly subscribe to Black Focus Radio as well. Tons and tons of stuff to talk about today. Of course, we got a great black fact. It's a police, the KKK. Some people say, well, you're just now talking about this? No, I've been talking about it, but it's becoming more and more obvious, apparently. Also, maybe we're teaching the wrong things. I'm going to talk a little bit about Albert Price. If you're not familiar with what that is, we'll get into that as well. Birmingham Mayor is charged to black athletes. We're going to talk about this a lot today because there's a lot of things that are going on in Birmingham and across this country. And people now, I think black people are beginning to wake up. I hope they are. What is your current freedom worth to you as well? That has to do with voting. We'll get into that. Also, Lisa Murkowski, is she going to leave the Republican Party? She says she's had enough of Donald Trump. Also, there was a massacre in Russia late last week. We'll talk a little bit about that. And also, where are the guns really coming from in Baltimore? As you all know, I live about 20 minutes outside of Baltimore now. And so many people are telling me, be careful of Baltimore. Don't go into Baltimore. Don't go here in Baltimore because of the violence. Well, there's been a lot of violence. But the question is, why is that? Okay? There are two names that you might want to become familiar with. One is Crystal Gonzalez, and the other is Michelle Hines. We'll talk about them as well. And also Donald Trump. Yeah. Did he make his $585 million bail? Inquiring minds want to know. We'll get into all of that here in just a moment. But before we do anything, we got to do black facts. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the black people in Egypt. Okay? Great black fact. I think you'll love it. So let's go ahead and do that right now. It's time for Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Aswan, Egypt is a city located in the south of Egypt. Aswan is also famous for its Nubian heritage, with colorful villages and friendly locals welcoming visitors to experience their tradition. The Nubian people have a long history in the region, with their roots tracing back to ancient times. Historically, the Nubians inhabited the region along the Nile River and what is now southern Egypt and northern Sudan. Most Nubians have a darker skin tone, while others may have lighter or intermediate skin tones. Nubian people have faced various migrations, invasions, and changes in political boundaries, but their heritage and cultural identity have endured.
Egypt, a haven of ancient wonders, has fascinated people for centuries. We've heard about the amazing pyramids and temples and the mysterious pharaohs who ruled the land. However, Historical representations of ancient Egyptians have frequently been whitewashed, leading to the misconception that they were predominantly Mediterranean or white in appearance. This is clearly not the case, as the Egyptian heritage has always been tied to black origins. And little did many know, in a secluded area near the majestic Nile River lay an ancient Egyptian city often overlooked by many. Here lies the black side of Egypt that the media doesn't dare to talk about. Come along with us as we explore the heart of Aswan, also known as the black side of Egypt, a place where history comes alive and the spirit of Egypt shines bright. Here you'll find a side of Egypt often overlooked and cast into the shadows due to prevailing white bias. As we go into this journey, we invite you to show your support for our channel. Don't forget to hit that like button, share our content, and subscribe to help our channel grow. Your support means the world to us. And with that, let's dive in. Aswan and Nubia. Aswan, located beside the majestic Nile, is a city rich in history and mystery. But to truly understand why it is called the Black Side of Egypt, we must uncover the forgotten story of Nubia, the very region where Aswan was built. The term Nubia holds different meanings depending on who you ask. To most people, the term is often linked closely with black culture in Africa, but for experts like ethnographers and linguists, it points to a specific area spanning southern Egypt and northern Sudan, where black-skinned Nubians traditionally resided. In the 1990s, archaeologists expanded this definition to include a broader region along the Middle Nile Valley and surrounding deserts, stretching from Aswan in Egypt to modern Khartoum, Sudan and beyond. What many aren't aware of is that ancient Nubia was home to highly advanced black African civilizations in terms of wealth, power, and cultural progress. The Nubians were often recognized by characteristics like darker skin tone, curly or textured hair, prominent cheekbones, and traditional Nubian attire or accessories such as anklets, bracelets, collars, and other jewelry. Interestingly, the Nubian kings ruled over Egypt as pharaohs for almost a century. Around 5000 BC, African people from what is now the Sahara also started migrating towards the Nile in Nubia. They introduced pottery-making skills. Initially, they were nomadic herdsmen and hunters, but they later transitioned to fishing and farming. As time passed, more people from the south migrated to the region, and it resulted in a diverse mix of African people in Nubia's population. As we stroll around Aswan today, it's hard to miss Nubia's influence that still lingers here. But what exactly makes the city of Aswan the black side of Egypt? Truly, Aswan is often referred to as the black side of Egypt because it has a significant population of Nubian people who have darker skin compared to other Egyptians. Historically, the Nubian civilization thrived in the southern regions of Egypt, including Aswan, and their cultural influence remains strong in the area up to today. Media representation and bias. The big problem is, while Aswan is bursting with culture and heritage, the mainstream media often neglect to appreciate this magical place. Notice that when it comes to Egypt, most of what we see in the news or on TV is all about the ancient pyramids, pharaohs, and tourist destinations. Seldom do they mention Egypt's strong linkage to the black African civilization. Egypt is located on the African continent, and its population has diverse ethnic, cultural, and historical ties to the broader African continent. While Egypt has been influenced by various civilizations throughout history, including those from the Middle East and the Mediterranean region, its roots are firmly grounded in Africa. The ancient Egyptian civilization, which flourished along the Nile River, is considered one of the earliest and most significant in human history, and its people were part of the broader African cultural landscape. Therefore, Egyptians can be considered African both geographically and culturally. Unfortunately, the black side of Egypt is one of the lesser-known aspects of the country that rarely gets the spotlight it deserves in mainstream media. Instead, the focus tends to be on the same old stories about mummies and pharaohs, perpetuating stereotypes and oversimplifying the country's rich and complex identity. And despite the evidence that ancient Egyptians were black, the long-standing tradition of whitewashing ancient Egypt continues. It's nothing new, even if it's awfully tired and manipulative. For instance, here's baby Moses being rescued from the Nile, in a rather inaccurate depiction of the inhabitants of Egypt at the time. It's a missed opportunity, really, because by only showing one side of Egypt, we're denying ourselves the chance to truly understand and appreciate the full breadth of its culture and history. And in doing so, we're overlooking the stories and experiences of millions of Egyptians who deserve to have their voices heard. Despite little coverage from the media, Aswan is quite a magical place where every street has a story to tell. From the lively markets filled with activity to the Nile riverbanks where locals gather, you can feel the city's rich history all around you, as though you stepped back in time and saw ancient traditions come to life right before your eyes. There's also the music you hear in the streets. It's not just any music, it's traditional Nubian tunes passed down through generations. Even the food you'll eat is unique and is not the typical selection you see in other places.
This is a lot of food. I'm starving, but okay, let's try it. He has some amazing traditional music in the background.
And of course, let's not forget about the people. They're the heart and soul of Aswan, always ready to welcome you with open arms and share their customs and traditions. Whether it's enjoying a meal together or joining in on a dance, you'll feel like part of the family here. Now, let's take a closer look into the beautiful people that reside in this area. In the heart of Aswan lies the thriving Nubian community, known for their colorful homes and deep cultural roots. Welcoming visitors with open arms, they embody the essence of hospitality, eager to share their traditions and stories. Inside Nubian village, you will be met with traditional music and the graceful movements of dancers. These performances not only entertain but also bridge the gap between the Nubian community and visitors, fostering a sense of connection and appreciation. Hospitality is ingrained in the Nubian way of life. Whether it's inviting guests into their homes for a cup of tea or regaling them with tales of their heritage, the Nubian people extend genuine warmth to all who cross their path. These heartfelt interactions create lasting bonds and enhance the visitor experience in Aswan. Meanwhile, for those seeking a deeper immersion into Nubian culture, the community offers a variety of workshops and activities. From learning the secrets of Nubian cuisine in cooking classes to mastering traditional crafts through hands-on demonstrations, these experiences allow visitors to dive into the heart of Nubian tradition. Beyond hospitality, the Nubian community is dedicated to preserving their rich cultural heritage. Through their interactions with visitors, they ensure that age-old traditions continue to thrive, passing down knowledge and customs to future generations. In Aswan, the Nubian community serves as a unifying force, bringing together locals and visitors from all walks of life. Their warmth, hospitality, and commitment to cultural preservation enrich the fabric of life in this captivating city, leaving a lasting impression on all who encounter them. Aswan tourist spots. Aswan has many beautiful places that you can go to. For instance, when visiting the Nubian village, you'll experience the vibrant colors, unique architecture, and warm hospitality of the Nubian people. The houses in the village are traditionally painted in bright colors like blue, pink, and yellow to ward off evil spirits and bring good luck. Another noteworthy place to mention is the Nubian Museum. This museum showcases the rich cultural heritage of the Nubian people through a fascinating collection of artifacts and exhibits. One interesting fact is that the museum's architecture is designed to resemble traditional Nubian houses, with domed ceilings and intricate wooden details. Moving on to another remarkable site, the Philae Temple, which was dedicated to the goddess Isis, is a stunning example of ancient Egyptian architecture. One fascinating fact about Philae Temple is that it was relocated from its original location on Philae Island to nearby Agilkia Island in the 1960s to save it from being submerged by the waters of Lake Nasser after the construction of the Aswan High Dam. It's also worth mentioning the unfinished obelisk. This obelisk was never completed due to a significant flaw discovered during its carving process. As workers were quarrying the granite, they encountered a crack in the stone, which rendered the obelisk unusable for its intended purpose. The crack is believed to have occurred due to a natural flaw in the granite, or possibly as a result of the quarrying process itself. Rather than continue to carve the obelisk and risk it breaking apart, work on the monument ended up getting abandoned. It's a shame that it was not completed, because if it had, the obelisk would have stood approximately 42 meters tall and weighed an estimated 1,168 tons, making it one of the largest obelisks ever constructed. These are just some places full of rich history you can visit in Aswan. There are plenty more, so whether you're exploring ancient temples, marveling at archaeological wonders, or soaking in the beauty of the Nubian villages, Aswan truly offers an unforgettable experience for visitors. As we can see, Aswan is quite a lively and historical place. Unfortunately, despite the city's beauty, the Nubian community has often faced many challenges and is still facing some today, not only in Aswan but also in Greater Egypt and Sudan. One big issue is that many Nubians are losing their homes and lands because of large projects like dams and highways. This means families are being forced to move away from the places they've called home for generations, which can be really gut-wrenching. One great example of this is the construction of Aswan High Dam, a great stride to others but a tragic moment in Nubian history. Back in the 1960s, Egypt decided to build the Aswan High Dam to control the flooding of the Nile River and generate electricity for the country. While this idea may have sounded convenient to many, building the dam meant flooding a huge area of land, including many Nubian villages. Imagine living in the same place for generations, your family home, your neighborhood, all the places you love, and then suddenly being told you have to leave because they're building a big dam. This is exactly what happened to many Nubian families. They were forced to pack up their lives and move to new, unfamiliar places, leaving behind everything they knew and loved. But it wasn't just about losing their homes either. For many Nubians, the dam meant losing a piece of their identity and connection to their ancestral lands. And while the dam brought electricity and economic development to Egypt, it came at a high cost for the Nubian people. On top of that, Nubians are still sometimes being left out or treated unfairly in society. They don't have the same access to good schools, healthcare or jobs as other people, which is not fair. Students go to school every day and feel like they're not getting the same opportunities as other kids. Perhaps the school they attend lacks the resources or quality of education found in other areas. They constantly face discrimination and bias from teachers and classmates because of their cultural background. It's not just in schools either. Nubians often struggle to access quality healthcare services, leaving them at a higher risk of health problems and disparities. And when it comes to finding a job or advancing in their careers, Nubians frequently encounter barriers and obstacles that prevent them from reaching their full potential. This systemic inequality and discrimination are deeply unfair and unjust. Every person, regardless of their background or ethnicity, deserves access to the same opportunities and resources to thrive and succeed in life. That's why it's important for governments, organizations, and individuals to work together to address these disparities and ensure that Nubian communities are treated with dignity, respect, and equality. And there's another problem too. Younger Nubians are starting to forget their traditions and language as they're exposed to more mainstream culture. This is a real shame because Nubian culture is so unique and important. Growing up in a world where your parents and grandparents speak a language that's different from what you hear on TV or in school, it can be tough to hold on to your cultural identity when you're bombarded with messages and images that tell you to be like everyone else. This is the challenge that many young Nubians face. As they're exposed to more mainstream culture through television, social media, and schools, they're starting to adopt different customs and languages, sometimes at the expense of their own heritage. But despite facing this huge challenge, the Nubian communities still show incredible resilience and strength. They are still working hard to preserve their culture and traditions, even in the face of adversity. And they continue to fight for their rights and for recognition of their unique heritage. Thankfully, there are alternative media outlets and grassroots initiatives that are working hard to shine a light on the black side of Egypt, the often overlooked stories and perspectives that mainstream media tends to neglect. One example is the rise of independent filmmakers and journalists who are using their platforms to tell more inclusive and diverse stories about Egypt. Through documentaries, online publications, and social media channels, these creators are giving voice to marginalized communities and shedding light on issues that are often swept under the rug. Similarly, small organizations and community-led initiatives are making great strides in amplifying the voices of underrepresented groups in Egypt. From cultural festivals celebrating Nubian heritage to educational programs aimed at preserving traditional crafts and languages, these grassroots efforts are helping to foster a greater sense of pride and recognition for Egypt's diverse cultural heritage. Social media has also become a powerful tool for individuals and communities to share their own stories and perspectives directly with the world. Platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube have enabled people to bypass traditional media gatekeepers and reach a global audience with their own narratives, experiences, and opinions. By supporting and amplifying these alternative voices and initiatives, we can help to challenge the dominant narratives about Egypt and ensure that all aspects of its rich culture are acknowledged and celebrated. With everything we talked about in this journey, please keep in mind, the next time you see a story about Egypt in the media, take it with a grain of salt. Remember that there's so much more to this country than meets the eye, and it's up to us to seek out those hidden gems and shine a light on the diverse cultures that make Egypt truly special. Thanks for joining us on this eye-opening journey through Aswan, the black side of Egypt that the media doesn't talk about. We hope you enjoyed learning about this hidden gem of a city and its vibrant Nubian community. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating explorations of the hidden black histories around the world. And be sure to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts and experiences. Together, let's continue to challenge media stereotypes and uncover the true and powerful stories that represent the black community. Until next time, see you in the next video.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic black facts, our culture, our history, our people on joynetradio.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. I hope you enjoyed that. Aswan, Egypt. It's called the Black Egypt. In fact, this is where everything began. I hope you enjoyed that black fact. Don't believe that hype about white people or unmelanated people settling Egypt. Those of us who know history know that's a lie. And this makes that point. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, I got to jump into what the mayor of Alabama said, Birmingham, Alabama said, and why I've been talking about this for a long time. It's about time that people start waking up. We'll take a break. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. Right here on joynetradio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joynetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joynetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joynetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joynetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joynetradio.com. David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub and Rib Nuts. Go to ribrub.com, that's RIBBRUBB.com right now, and stock up on the best dry marinades for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats. 3 great flavors, hot and spicy, original, and scorching. Try them at your next cookout and you'll shout, bake it, grill it, shake it, oh yeah! Only one place to get Coleman's Dynamic products, that's ribrub.com. Easy to order, and I'll ship direct to you or to friends and family anywhere in the United States. While on the site, be sure to check out other great items, especially the rib nuts. Who'd have thunk it? Peanuts sauteed in a barbecue marinade? That's just crazy good. Get them at ribrub.com right now, along with other great recipes. That's ribrub.com. If you don't like my rib rub or rib nuts, I'll give you money back. Do it today. That's Coleman's Dynamic Products at ribrub.com. Listen! Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year, and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on joynetradio.com.
All right, welcome back to the show, Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us. Hit us up on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Don't forget to check out the podcast. Just go out to Spotify and search for Black Focus Radio or any of your podcast platforms. And while you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. We're trying to get the listeners up. We're trying to spread the word. A lot of people are hearing about Black Focus. We want more of you all to hear about Black Focus so you can add your 2 cents to the discourse of how Black people need to change their disposition in order to become a better people. Speaking of which, let's start this segment off, and we may go long with this, I will tell you, because, when I heard this story, I was simply, I almost ran off the road. I was driving and listening to a news channel, and I was like, whoa, is he listening to my show? If you don't know who I'm talking about Randall Woodfin. He is the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama. And he made news, and it has kind of went under the radar, and I'm sure the local media as well as the white media is not going to stress this. But we've got to talk about this. And it's something that I've been talking about for quite some time. By the way, y'all see my shirt? Yeah, I got Brother Malcolm on today. My lethal weapon is my mind. Okay? My lethal weapon is my mind. So, Randall Woodfin, he said on social media that if state lawmakers passed a bill barring diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in state public schools and universities, he would encourage parents and minority student athletes to select colleges in states where DEI are prioritized. Hello? Let me read that again. Y'all didn't get that, right? Because if you've been listening to Black Focus Radio, then I've been talking about this for quite some time. And I'm going to give you some numbers here in just a moment that's going to boggle your mind. All right? But I've been talking about this for quite some time. Okay? And maybe we're getting ready to have a mental revolution. At least I hope we do. Randall Woodfin, the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama, recently said on social media that if state lawmakers passed a bill barring diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the state's public schools and universities, he would encourage parents of minority student athletes to select colleges in states where DEI are prioritized. Now, those of you who don't know what DEI is, as I said, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. There were a lot of schools and universities. In fact, I had a friend who was the head of DEI at Arkansas Tech. And I told her that they were going to come after her, and they did. She's no longer at Arkansas Tech, by the way. It's in Russellville, Arkansas. Now, DEI, equity, and inclusion are programs that many colleges, universities, and companies had set up to make sure that they were including Black people in the hiring processes, respecting their holidays, and it's just a whole, I guess, web of things that you could do for Black people. This was, to some extent, I was thinking about this last week, a form of reparations, because as I've said over and over again, that the reason that we have racism in America is because of white people. And if racism is going to be gotten rid of, then white people have got to do it. These DEI programs was a step in that direction. But now all of a sudden, because of right-wingers and bigots, racists, and Klansmen, they've decided that, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. And you're seeing cities and states all across this country, even the ones that are considered liberal, backtracking on DEI. So what can be done about that? Well, Mayor Woodfin has a very, very interesting concept, something that we've been talking about on Black Focus Radio now for, I know, at least 5 years. Let me go on with this article that is on MSNBC. Woodfin was reacting to the state's Senate approval last week of a bill that would also bar public schools from affirming a divisive concept, such as teaching that slavery and racism are aligned with founding principles of the United States, and that fault, blame, or bias should be assigned to members of a race, color, religion, sex, ethnicity, or a national organ on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, ethnicity, or national origin. Governor Kay Ivey who was a Republican, already signed it into law. Now, let me just break that down for you. It says, such teaching that slavery and racism are aligned with the founding principles of the United States. Let's just stop right there. Because you all know, if you've listened to this show, and if you know me personally, I'm a history buff. And yes, slavery and racism was part of the founding principles of America. You cannot have America without slavery. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. As a matter of fact, let me just, since they say that, okay, let's just do a little live Google search. Presidents who owned slaves in America. Okay, let me just go down this list again. See, they don't want you to teach this because they don't want truth. Okay? So on Black Focus Radio, I promise you that we're always going to give you what? Truth and facts. And this is why what the mayor of Birmingham, Mayor Woodford, this is the point that he's making. Let's go back and read let's see. Such teaching, they called it a divisive concept to teach American history, that slavery and racism are aligned with the founding principles of the United States. Well, let's just break that down. Let's just break that down. George Washington, he was considered the first president of the United States. He owned anywhere from 250 to 600 slaves. Hello? And he purposely dodged slave lines. There were certain areas in Maryland that you could not take a slave, because if that slave was there for 24 hours, that slave was considered free. George Washington would take slaves across the line, and before the time elapsed, he would take them back to slave states. This was George Washington. Thomas Jefferson, he owned anywhere from 200 to 600 slaves. And of course, we know the story of Sally Hemings, the little 12-year-old girl who he raped and kept in a serving quarter next to his room. By the way, did I tell you that George Washington, when I grew up, they used to always talk about George Washington having wooden teeth. He didn't have wooden teeth, by the way. They would literally pull the teeth of slaves and make false teeth for George Washington. James Madison, he owned 100 plus. James Monroe, he owned 75 to 100 slaves. Andrew Jackson, Stonewall Jackson, he owned 200 plus slaves. In fact, one of the controversy during his presidency was his reaction to anti-slave tracts. During his campaign for presidency, he faced criticism for being a slaveholder. He did not free his slaves in his will. Martin Van Buren, he owned slaves. William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James Polk, Zachary Taylor, Andrew Johnson, Ulysses Grant, they all owned slaves. So when we go back to that, where is it? What did it say? Such teaching that slavery and racism are aligned with the founding principles of the United States. You can't teach that. Now, wait a minute. Didn't they make sure that slaves were considered 3/5 of a white man? Hello? Y'all hear me? Not. Y'all here? Y'all still listening? So, Alabama, which was one of the worst slave states, let me do one other thing while we're on lynching by state. How many lynchings did Alabama have? Okay. Well, look at this right here. From 1882 to 1968. Alabama had over, check this out, almost 350 lynchings. 299 of them were black. 48 were white, no doubt abolitionists who were trying to help slaves. Hello? Oh, you don't want to teach that? Huh? What? Alabama. Alabama. So you don't want to teach that, huh? Let's go back to the article. The bill was signed into law with KIV, as I said. In Alabama, which is nearly 27% black, college football is a big business with rivals of Alabama and Auburn historically among the top programs in the country. In his post, Woodfin asked the leadership, athletic directors, and coaches of those colleges whether they supported this proposed law. As of Friday, the schools had yet to respond. Woodfin continued. To the parents of minority athletes who are helping their children decide if they want to play sports at those institutions, would you be cool with your child playing at schools where diversity among staff is actively being discouraged? Although I'm the biggest Alabama fan, I have no problem organizing black parents and athletes to attend other universities outside of the state where diversity and inclusion are prioritized. If supporting inclusion becomes illegal in this state, hell, you might as well stand in front of the school door like George Wallace. Hello? According to Keena Clark, who supported Woodfin in 2017, he faces a lot of criticism for any position that he takes because he's a Democrat in a Republican-run state. Okay? His character and his caring about us as a people. He's willing to face the criticism and stand up for what we believe, for what we deal with as black people here. He's taking a lot of heat, certainly from white people. Because, see, them white folks love they little black kids running up and down a football field and a basketball court. Hello? Y'all get this, right? You see, I've been talking about this now I want to say, gosh, I'll be conservative. I'll say 5 years. But I know I've been talking about this for the longest. By the way, did you see, this weekend, how many of y'all filled out a bracket? How many? Raise your hand. I did. I filled out like 10 of them. Guess what? A lot of those kids out there, if you watched any of these games, were black kids. From southern states. From red states. Hello? Hello? Do you know that those kids are earning colleges across this country a total of over $1.6 billion just for basketball? I think it was over a 6-year period. Did y'all know that? I talked a little bit about Nick Saban last week going to Congress, talking about we need to do something about NIL when he's made over $10 million. Well, let me take that back. Nick Saban has made, over $100 million on the backs of black athletes from Alabama. Hello? Y'all get this, right? But they don't want black athletes to make any of that money. They went to Congress to try to get Congress to pass some type of legislation to keep black athletes from making that money. When sometimes that black athlete was the only person that went to college in their family. And mama is at home, a single mother, sitting at home with not a penny to her name. And she has 4 other kids. She can barely feed them. She can barely keep the lights on. If she's fortunate to have a car, she's borrowing money from Peter to pay Paul in order to put gas in her car. But Nick Saban is making $11 million a year. At least he was. That doesn't even include his assistants. You all understand what I'm saying? And this is not any different from any college campus across as far as the Power 5 conferences. Now, I know they are breaking up and going to giant conferences now, but if they are a big-time college, these coaches are making millions. And these kids are the ones why they're making millions. But you want them to come and play on your campus, but you don't want to teach them about diversity. You want to lie and cover up America's history about what they did to our ancestors. So I've been saying for years now that the only way to really stop this is to stop playing at their schools. In fact, I've been advocating a boycott of colleges for the longest. I've been advocating us not sending black kids to white universities. And we should be flooding HBCUs with this talent. Now, the argument is saying, hey, well, if they go to HBCUs, they won't be discovered. Damn lie. Damn lie. Doug Williams, Steve McNair, Otis Sistrunk, Walter Payton, Jerry Rice. I could go on and on and on about black athletes who went to HBCUs who are or were successful in the NFL, the NBA. You see, they have been smart and almost insidiously smart to try to paint the picture that, oh, if you go to a black university, you're not going to get a good education and you're not going to get drafted, which is a damn lie. Think about it. We've got the NFL draft. So many people have been talking about it a lot over the last couple of weeks. It's coming up April 25th. The top 2 quarterbacks are black. Just imagine Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams had they went to an HBCU. Just imagine if all of these great black athletes, the 3 black quarterbacks that were drafted first round last year, even the racism in the NFL draft is apparent because they are hyping 3 white boys who are not as good as 3 black quarterbacks. In fact, they totally discounted one of those black quarterbacks who went to the national championship game, and every scout has said the guy can make every throw. That guy is Michael Penix Jr. But you know what? He's not even being considered in the first round in the draft. The 3 white boys, Drake May, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, neither of them can throw. They've said that Drake May is erratic and throws the ball all over the field. J.J. McCarthy wasn't even allowed to throw on a regular basis with the University of Memphis. The excuse they gave him is, oh, well, he's good. They just didn't let him throw because he had so much talent around him. That is a bunch of crap. He can't read defenses. And Bo Nix, who transferred from school to school, went to Auburn, then he transferred to Oregon. He's a one-read quarterback. But they're putting him above Michael Penix Jr., whom all of the scouts have said he's the best thrower in the draft. Now, not trying to make this a sports argument, but you see, sports is woven into the fabric of America. And many of the things that we do are surrounded by sports. As a matter of fact, I guarantee you there were quite a few men and women, by the way, who took off last week and are taking off this week because they wanted to watch March Madness. There's a problem here, a serious problem. We need to take a break. When we come back, more on this. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joynetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joynetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joynetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joynetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joynetradio.com. David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub and Rib Nuts. Go to ribrub.com, that's RIBBRUBB.com right now, and stock up on the best dry marinades for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats. 3 great flavors, hot and spicy, original, and scorching. Try them at your next cookout and you will shout, bake it, grill it, shake it, oh yeah! Only one place to get Coleman's Dynamic products, that's ribrub.com. Easy to order, and I'll ship direct to you or to friends and family anywhere in the United States. While on the site, be sure to check out other great items, especially the rib nuts. Who'd have thunk it? Peanuts sauteed in a barbecue marinade? That's just crazy good. Get them at ribrub.com right now, along with other great recipes. That's ribrub.com. If you don't like my rib rub or rib nuts, I'll give you money back. Do it today. That's Coleman's Dynamic Products at ribrub.com. Listen! Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year, and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on joynetradio.com.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join me, you can send me an email at blackfocusradio@gmail.com as well if you have a subject that you want to discuss on the show, or maybe you'd like to be a guest on the show, or maybe you would like to suggest a guest on the show. We'd be glad to have that input. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Right now, we're talking about the mayor of Birmingham. We're going to talk about the mayor of Baltimore here real soon. But Mayor Woodfin in Birmingham last week, or at least a couple of weeks ago, came out on his Twitter account. It is now being reported that he has suggested that black athletes should avoid going to college at white universities, particularly Auburn and Alabama, because they have decided that they're not interested. They being the state, being a Republican-led state of bigots and racists, they don't want to talk about DEI. They don't want to teach history. Because if you notice, and look, this has been long coming, because they stopped making history. It used to be when I was in high school, history was a mandatory course you had to take. It was required. Now, it was a prerequisite to a lot of other courses. Now it's like, we're not going to really teach that. They don't teach civics anymore either. Because if you teach civics, then what? An educated people is an informed people. They don't want to teach any of that. Because if I teach you civics, then you begin to learn how and the power of the vote. I don't even teach that anymore. Ain't that something? So Mayor Woodford has decided that, hey, look, I've had enough of this BS, and I want these kids to go somewhere else. As I told you earlier, $1.6 billion for March Madness. What I didn't tell you is that, they've got a brand new college football playoff. Greg Sankey, who is the head of the SEC, even suggested last week that the little colleges don't belong in the tournament because he want to make sure all of his schools, which are white schools that are being propped up by black athletes, get in the tournament. The more get in the tournament, the more money they make. Part of the reason that they went to this new playoff format and they've dissolved all of these conferences is because they want to make money. And the people that are making money or making the money for them are black athletes. And by the way, you say, well, they're getting paid now. They're getting NIL. Now, let me ask you a question. Let's say you work for a company, okay? And that company didn't pay you. Not going to pay you. But you could go and make some money on the side. I know a lot of people like this. Let's just bring it home. Computers is one of those classic examples. I worked for Dell for 15 years. Okay? Just imagine if I worked for Dell for 15 years and Dell paid me pretty good. But let's say they didn't. Let's say they made me minimum wage. Well, you know what I did? On the side, my friends knew I worked for Dell, so they would always come to me and ask me to help them fix their computers if there was a problem. Oftentimes, they gave me a little change on the side. Now, that analogy is what the NIL is. You play for this school. The school gives you nothing. They say they give you an education, but break your leg. Don't perform the way you need to perform. And guess what? You're out the door. No, there are no 4-year scholarships. I was talking to a friend the other day who didn't realize that. He thought when they got scholarships that they were there for 4 years. No, they're not. But let's go back to my little example. So now I work for Dell. I'm making money on the side because Dell is not paying me enough to supplement my income and pay my bills. So I have to hustle on the side helping other people with computers in order to make my ends meet. Dell goes to the state legislature and says, hey, or Congress and says, hey, we need to limit David and people like him from making money on the side because they work for us. That's exactly what these colleges are doing. By the way, these kids leave with no health insurance. I've told you all often about my issue with my neck. I broke my neck in college. And if it wasn't for the fact that I worked for Dell when it became a problem, you see, I didn't know I broke my neck. I thought I had a shoulder problem. But you know what? My coaches, and by the way, I went to a small college. My coaches didn't give a damn. When I got hurt, the first thing coach saw me when I ran off the field, coach looked at me and said, Coleman, can you go? If you can't go, I got to get somebody else in there. He didn't say, Coleman, where are you hurt? So I set out one play. I had the manager to come over and put an airbag under my shoulder pads, and I ran back in there, not knowing that I had broke my damn neck. Some 20, 30 years later, I begin to have problems, and I go to the doctor, and the doctor, sure enough, said, Mr. Coleman, you have a broken neck. He said, I guarantee you, I know how you broke it. He said, you used to play football, didn't you? I said, yes, I did. He said, I get a lot of football players coming in here with your problem. He said, how long ago did you break it? I said, I played football in 1982. He said, oh my God, you've been walking around this long with a broken neck and you did nothing about it? He said, weren't you in pain? I said, yeah, I'd have pain every now and then. He told me, he said, look, you're the toughest MF I've ever met in my life. He said, what saved you is that my neck was huge because I had worked out. I used to, in the off season, I'd do extra workouts on my neck to get my neck stronger. That's the only thing that saved me. You see, I've had 3 brushes with death. I'll talk about that later. I should be paralyzed. Okay. So why am I telling you all this? Because I want you to understand what goes on behind the scenes at these colleges. So while you're sitting at your bar, while you're sitting at home, criticizing these young men because they're not tough, in all likelihood, those guys are playing in pain. Look, if you go through a full football season, particularly football, by the end of the season, everybody and their mama hurt. I'm serious. Everybody is hurt. And you just can't wait to that last game. Yet there'll be people that are sitting in the stands watching on TV, and even coaches saying, oh, well, he's just not tough enough. Excuse me? And then that kid leaves, or maybe he graduates. 10, 15, 20 years later, those injuries that occurred while in college is now manifesting themselves in his life every day. He might be doing some crazy stuff. He might be suffering from CTE. I could be suffering from CTE. Fortunately, I have not shown any symptoms, but you never know. Remember Lawrence Phillips? Some of you all don't follow football. Man, I remember this young man. Heck of a player in college. Goes to the pros. Heck of a player in pros. Kept having problems in the pros. Couldn't understand what was going on with Lawrence Phillips. Eventually, he gets put out of the league. He goes and does a pickup football game with some kids and tries to run them over with his car. Now, many of us just discounted it as Lawrence Phillips and got on drugs. I'm willing to bet you that once Lawrence Phillips is dead, hopefully he'll donate his brain. We'll see that he's suffering from CTE. But see, you don't have to go to pros. We have high school kids who have killed themselves, who have been medicating themselves with alcohol because they keep having headaches. There was one in, I want to say, was it White Station? Went to White Station High School in Memphis, Tennessee. Who killed himself? I believe it was White Station. Come to find out he was suffering from CTE in high school. Hello? So, we're talking about this. We need to take the top of the hour break. When we come back, we're not done. We're not done. I've got a whole agenda of things that I need to talk about. And we are going to get to what the Baltimore mayor is going through as well, because racism in this country is ripe. And it's time for us to stop this craziness. You all are more loyal to fraternities and sororities than you are to your own people. And your own people are dying every day. And all you do, you buy into the mantra of the white media. As I said earlier, people tell me, oh, don't go into this part of Baltimore. Why is that part of Baltimore that way? We'll talk more when we get back. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On JoyNetRadio.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. Don't forget, you can hit us up on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And by the way, don't forget to download the podcast. Just go to your favorite podcast platform and search for Black Focus Radio. In fact, you can do that for both shows, Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine Today. That's on Instagram. Okay. I'm actually going, and by the way, don't forget about the Rib Rub on Instagram as well. Okay. So today we're talking about what the mayor of Birmingham, Randall Woodfin, has suggested. Now, those of you, and let me recap, those of you who don't know this story, and the reason I'm emphasizing this, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to talk about this a bit here, because I think it's important for us to understand the power that we have. You know, our power is in our children. If you go back and you look at history, if you even go back and look at world history, the revolutions that were created that overturned governments was led by young people. South Africa, here in the United States, all across the world, it is young people who have decided that they have had enough. So what do they need to do? See, our government and state governments are moving to try to keep young people ignorant, so you won't understand what's going on in America. So you can just fall in line. You can be just a automaton, a robot. But Mayor Woodfin has said, hey, we've had enough, because the state legislature in Alabama has decided that they don't want to include diversity, equity, and inclusion. In other words, they don't want to talk about what they did to black people. Okay? Here's what the law has, and by the way, it's been signed into law by the Republican governor, Kay Ivey. It says, this law would bar public schools from affirming a divisive concept such as teaching that slavery and racism are aligned with the founding principles of the United States. Okay? That's what they want to say. And that fault, blame, or bias should be assigned to members of a race, color, religion, sex, ethnicity, or national origin on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, ethnicity, or national origin. Good old Alabama. But Alabama is not the only state that's doing this. This is happening all across the country, particularly with Republican-ran states. They don't want to talk about slavery. They don't want their children to know about slavery. I remember a couple of years ago when they were having the anniversary at Tulsa, and the Tulsa mayor, who is white, he asked his grandfather about the Tulsa massacre. His grandfather didn't know anything about it. At least that's what he said. In all likelihood, his grandfather may have participated in the killing of those black folks in Tulsa. They don't want to teach that. In fact, I'm pretty sure if they had their way, Black history museums would not even exist. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't even exist. We're all Americans. Yeah, we're all Americans until you all decide you want to divide up the money. So I guess we can't talk about redlining anymore. Hello? I guess we can't talk about police brutality anymore. Hello? The question is, what should we do about it? And as I said last hour, our most powerful weapon is our dollar bill. And that dollar bill manifests itself in our children. And if you go and you look at the billions of dollars that our children are earning white people, that's your answer. You see, I call for a boycott of all colleges except HBCUs. Stop sending your children to white universities in white states who don't give a damn about black children, except that he can run a football or dunk a basketball. Even if you look at women's college sports now, particularly women's basketball. The majority of those women who are playing are black women. Yeah, they're talking about Caitlin Clark, who is white, but the majority of them are black women. Our children are feeding white communities, white establishments, colleges and universities, and we're getting pennies on the dollar. I saw an interesting video the other day, and he was talking about Patti LaBelle pies. You know, Patti LaBelle has made $20 million off her assigning her name to Patti LaBelle pies. Even though those pies are full of preservatives, things that you don't need in your body, you know that if Patti LaBelle was making those pies at home, some of that crap that's going into that pie would not be happening. But here's the killer about it. You know who really makes those pies? Walmart. Yeah, Walmart. Do you know how much the contract was for Patti LaBelle and those pies? She would get 10% of all of the total earnings from the sales of those pies, from that revenue. 10%. Wait a minute. You see, Patti is not that smart either. Now, do you know how much they've earned from those pies? By the way, do you know who makes those pies? Realistically? Yeah. Walmart. Patti LaBelle is getting 10%. You know how much revenue to date that they've made off of those pies? Over $200 million. Hello? Now, was Patti LaBelle a smart businesswoman, or was she just excited to be getting money? We've got to be smarter. You might say, well, you know, she's getting 20 million. That ain't bad. 20 million, 200 million. 20 million, 200 million. In fact, it's off the chart. Hello? This is how they continue to rape our communities every day. And then we have celebrities who think it's okay. The same thing occurs in the music industry. It's been going on in the music industry. And as a matter of fact, some of the music that they are putting in our communities today, those white executives, those Jewish executives will tell you that they don't allow that music to be played in their homes. My children don't listen to that music. But it's okay to put it in the black community. We got to have an awakening, folks. We got to have an awakening. The next segment, I'm going to talk about Mayor Scott here in the Baltimore area and what they're dealing with. And white Republicans making hay of the fact of what's going on in cities like Baltimore, yet they are doing nothing but enabling it. In fact, they are creating the problem, yet they will do nothing to stop it because they don't care. Because you know why they don't care? Because it's killing black kids. As long as it's killing black kids, they're okay. As long as it's affecting black kids, they're okay. See the crack epidemic. See the opioid epidemic. What's the difference in the two? The difference in the two is that the crack epidemic, which, by the way, was created by the United States government and the CIA, they were dumping cocaine in the black community. That was them, because they were trying to supply arms to the Contra. See Oliver North. See Ronald Reagan. That's why I cringe every time I hear someone say, well, you know, Ronald Reagan was a great president. No, he wasn't. He was the master drug pusher. And his general was Oliver North, who pumped millions of pounds of cocaine into the black community and destroyed family after family after family. And then they turned around when the opioid crisis hit And the opioid crisis was predominantly white. It was white people who were getting hooked on oxycodone and hydrocodone. They didn't put them in jail. They didn't raid their homes and shoot to kill. Oh, we've got to get them some counseling. They've got to get some mental health care. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And at some point, you've got to do the same. So Mayor Woodfin is correct. If you don't give a damn about us, then why are we going to make money for you at your universities? Why are we sending our kids to these colleges and universities who don't care about our kids, except they look at them as a cash cow? Why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense to me. It never has. That's why I've been talking about this for the longest. At some point, we have got to decide that we are going to take care of our community. And Mayor Woodfin is right. I mentioned the college football playoff that's about to happen. You know that right now, that is going to offer. Check this out. ESPN is ponying up another $1.6 billion for broadcast rights for the college football playoff. I didn't say million. I said billion. Now, why are they doing that? Whose children are the ones that are making hay? I've said this before. I've talked about this on my show while I was in Nashville years ago. We talked about it openly. I had a white listener who called and said, and I asked the question, I said, if black children were not playing college sports, what would you do? White guy calls up and says, hey, look, it would be a bunch of slow white guys out there, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't watch. By the way, I was doing a sports radio show on a white radio station, and all of those white boys who called that day, that week, when we broached that subject, said basically the same thing. Now, many of them said, oh, I don't think they should be paid, but many of them said, I wouldn't watch if black kids weren't playing. Hello? You see, we being black people don't understand our power. You see, this shirt says, my lethal weapon is my mind. See, all we got to do, all of these degrees, these doctorates and these master's degrees have not put two and two together to say, hey, wait a minute. We control our own destiny. We can collectively bargain on how we're treated. I say the same thing about the vote. We should not be voting Democrat or Republican. We all ought to be independents. And both of those parties should be coming to us, asking us, what can I do to get your vote? Hello? Are y'all listening? Y'all, knock, 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 y'all here? I am so proud of Mayor Woodfin, who was finally broaching this subject, that if you are not going to treat me as a human being, then I am not going to contribute to your well-being. That should be a no-brainer. That should be a no-brainer. What are we doing, folks? Why are we doing this? Why are we afraid to stand up and be a man, to be a people? If I came to your house right now and I cussed you out, you'd be ready to fight me. If I said something bad about your wife, you'd be ready to fight me. If I said something bad about your children, you'd be ready to fight me. Yet we allow white politicians to do this every day. We allow them to treat us as if we're chattel. Oh, I know, you got to pay the bills. You'll sell your community down the river just to pay the bills. I know. I know you do. You know you do. At some point, we have got to stand up and say, enough is enough. That's what Mayor Scott is saying in Baltimore. We've got to say, hey, we're not going to take this anymore. And we've got to go to our children and say, hey, look, I need you to make a sacrifice, because you are able to do what you do because someone made a sacrifice for you, and you need to give back. You see, that's why that generation in the 60s is the greatest generation that we've ever seen. The generation of John Lewis and Martin Luther King and Fannie Lou Hamer. That's why they're the greatest generation we've ever seen, because they understood that I may not get there with you, but we're going to get to the promised land. No matter what I need to do. Yeah, you're going to turn those water hoses on me. Yes, you're going to sick those dogs on me. Yes, you're going to assassinate my leaders. But we're going to get there. I'm not going to let you turn me around. That's what we ought to be doing, folks. This is a no-brainer. And what Mayor Woodfin is saying is that we've had enough. And every one of us should be backing him. Every one of us. It is important for us to start saying, we've had enough. Oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure that the white state legislature in Alabama is doing everything they can to divest from Birmingham, as the state legislature in Mississippi did in Jackson, the blackest city in America. Hello? So you got a crime problem. In Jackson, you got a water problem, a problem that's been going on for decades. But the white legislature refused to do anything about Jackson. In fact, Jackson also, they tried to pass a law where the people of Jackson would have no say-so in their law enforcement or anything that goes on in Jackson. Hello? At some point, we got to wake up and say, this is not going to happen in America again. They are trying to turn back the clock right before our very eyes. And we're sitting around worried about who's sleeping with who. We're sitting around worried about what rapper said what about another rapper, or what comedian said about another comedian. When many of those same comedians and those entertainers do little or nothing for their own communities from which they came. I don't care if you're mad. It's time to wake up. It's time for us to start saying, hey, we're not doing this anymore. Mayor Woodfin is the first public official. Now, there may be others, but Mayor Woodfin is the first public official that I've seen and heard that said, we're not doing this anymore. We're not. And this is what we ought to do. It makes all the sense in the world. The question is, how much sense do you have? When are you going to get sick and tired of getting sick and tired? There's a way out of this. It ain't easy. Okay? It's not easy. But there is a way. The question is, are you willing to sacrifice? Because that's what needs to happen if we're going to get out of this quagmire that is racism. We can't stop talking about it. That's what these people want us to do. And they're writing it into law. Say, hey, you can't even talk about racism. You can't even talk about it. Even though this country is racist. Even though this country was built on racism. This country continues to be racist. But you can't even talk about it. Hello? When are you going to get sick and tired of being sick and tired? Here's the bottom line. If I go to an establishment and you treat me with disrespect, especially, it doesn't even matter what it is. But if I go to a white establishment and you disrespect me, I detect that there's an issue here, you don't have to worry about it. I won't be back. And you know what? I'm going to go and tell everybody. Okay? I'm not going to go and march on your establishment. I'm going to use my social media, my show, and say, XYZ company treated me like crap. This is what they did. I hope you will boycott it. I hope you will not spend your money there. We need to understand. See, Patti LaBelle got $20 million from Walmart, but Patti LaBelle deserved half. If Walmart made $200 million in revenue from putting her name on a pie, let me ask you a question. If the name Walmart would have been on that sweet potato pie, how many of you all would have bought them? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I thought. None of you. Because Patti LaBelle's name was on that pie, you all gave Walmart $200 million. Patti LaBelle got 10% of that. You see, our mindsets are so screwed up that y'all thinking, oh, she got $20 million. That's great. You don't understand that she got gypped. She got cheated. I know y'all don't get that. I've had people to come to me and say, man, I'd love to use your rib rub. Put my name on your rib rub. No. You gonna pay me? How much you gonna pay me? Well, I'll give you 10%. No, you're not giving me 10%. That recipe will go to my grave before you sell it off for 10% of this total work. Sorry, yeah, I'm not rich. I'm struggling. But I ain't no damn fool. You shouldn't be either. We need to take a break. When we come back, we need to talk about what's going on here in Baltimore. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices, right here on JoyNetRadio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RealRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from RealRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RealRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RealRub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes. SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products, but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils, and yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to SkinTentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. SkinTentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all, and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
All right, welcome back to the show, Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. Hey, I've got a whole list of things that I need to talk about. You see that? I keep a little book of every show that I do, and I always write down what I'm going to discuss. So if you look at this, there are about 10 subjects that I had planned to discuss today, but I guarantee you I'm not going to get to them. I'm going to do 2. I did the other one, which was about Mayor Woodford in Birmingham, Alabama, and his talk about not going to sending your kids to Alabama and Auburn. It's time to boycott those schools because they want to keep you from learning about real history, and they're destroying the DEI programs across the state. They've even passed legislation to do that very thing. It was signed into law last Friday. This segment, we're going to talk about Brandon Scott. He's the mayor of Baltimore. And there was an interesting piece that was on CNN last night relating to Baltimore. And the fascinating thing is that a lot of these Republican representatives who don't live in these cities, by the way, always want to use places like Baltimore and DC and New York as a problem with crime, not understanding that crime is actually down under the Biden administration. And more importantly, that there is more crime in these red states than there are in blue states. But this piece that is going on is about the guns in Baltimore. You see, in order to own a gun here in Baltimore, you've got to go under some strict criteria in the state of Maryland. But what we're finding here, and when I first moved here, so many people, and I live about 30 minutes outside of Baltimore. First thing people would say is, hey, look, don't go to this area. Don't go to that area. Don't go to this area. A lot of shootings over there. As I look for a new apartment, I'm hearing the same things because I'm looking for a new apartment now. And people are saying, well, don't go to this area, try this area. And what's bad about it? Many of these people up here can afford to go to some of these better areas. Look, an apartment up here, a decent apartment, 2-bedroom will cost you about $2,000 a month. Many of the people are not making that kind of money. I'm looking for a 1-bedroom. I've seen some, I started last week, and some of them are starting at $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. The efficiencies, or I guess you could say studio apartments, are running you about $1,200 to $1,500. And they're all saying, well, don't go to this area of Baltimore. The gun violence is off the chain, and not just in Baltimore, in the DC area as well. But what the CNN report talked about, and there are 2 mothers that were on there, Crystal Gonzalez and Michelle Hines. Both of them. Crystal Gonzalez lost her daughter who was 18, who was at a party. Michelle Hines lost her son who was 16 to gun violence, just all within the last year. And the gun violence is rampant. Here's the problem. Did you know that Congress passed a law that said that the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Department could not share gun data with local administrations? So, if you want to solve a problem, first of all, you have to identify the problem. Okay? What's the problem? Gun violence. Okay? So now we have to determine, well, where are we getting these guns from? Because if I want to cut down on gun violence, then first of all, I have to cut off the stream of guns. So in order to cut that stream, I have to know where they're coming from, right? Does that make sense? I have to know where they're coming from. Unfortunately, the department that knows where those guns are coming from cannot share that information with local municipalities because of a federal law that was passed by the gun advocates in Congress. So if I know where the guns are coming from, then I can take steps to stop those guns from coming. Give an example. Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in America. They have a lot of gun violence. But you know what? Most of those guns come outside from outside the state, mainly Indiana. The mayor of Chicago, a while back, asked Mike Pence at the time, who was the governor of the state of Indiana, to do something about the free flow of guns that are coming from Indiana into Chicago. Mike Pence refused to do anything about it. Yet people want to criticize Chicago. Well, wait a minute. If you live downstream on a river, okay, and upstream they are polluting the river, is it your fault that your children are dying from pollution? Or should you do something to stop those upstream from polluting the river? This is the best analogy you can go with. Think about it. You're downstream and they're dumping, and the people upstream is dumping all the waste into the river. It's poisoning the river. It's killing the fish. What can you do about it, you who are living downstream? Ain't a damn thing you can do about it. You are victims of those who are upstream. So what do? You get on the phone, you get in your car, you get your bus, and you travel upstream to the city and say, hey, look, I live downstream at ABC City. You live upstream in XYZ City. XYZ City is dumping pollution into the river that's causing problems downstream. You need to stop it. What should you do? I'm trying to make these analogies as simple as possible because they are simple. The solutions are what's profound. So at this point, you talk to the people upstream and say, hey, look, y'all got to do something about this, or we're going to stop you. We're going to sue you. So in that piece with the Baltimore mayor and those parents who have lost kids to gun violence in the city of Baltimore, here's what has come out. That 20%, not 20, 60% of the guns that are flowing into the Baltimore area are coming from 50, 60 miles away. Now, wait a minute. Let me pause for the cause here. Can I pause? So, if you have not heard the story of what went on in Arkansas last week, let me just refresh your memory. Okay? Because see, the ATF knows where these guns are coming from. They know. The problem is, why don't you stop it? So last week, a public official that worked at the Little Rock Airport, his name was Brian Milanowski. He was an airport executive who was shot by ATF agents. Okay? And come to find out that Brian Milanowski was trafficking guns. Here is a prominent official in Little Rock who was trafficking guns, and the ATF knew it, and the ATF decided that, hey, we're going to stop him. So they served a search warrant on his house. And Mr. Milanovsky, in his infinite wisdom, decided that, hey, You ain't coming up in my house. And he opened fire on the ATF. Bad mistake, Brian. White boy, by the way. They ended up shooting and killing him, and rightfully so. Now, his brother is saying, hey, they should have did him like that. They should have given him a chance. They didn't have a right to go into his house, and yada, yada. Yeah, they did if you were trafficking weapons. Now, we don't know. Now, the ATF knows where he was sending those weapons. We don't know. My first thing is, white people want to complain. Those of you who are in Arkansas want to complain about what the ATF did. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. Why didn't he comply? Hello? Why didn't Brian, good old boy, why didn't he comply? And by the way, why are y'all so upset that y'all got treated like a black person? You see, that's what they do to black people. They don't ask any questions. They just come in guns blazing. I saw a piece the other day where this woman, this old woman, she was 75 years old, living in her house. Local authorities, I believe it was in Denver, raided her home. You know why they raided her home? Because an app said that she was harboring an illegal cell phone. Someone had stolen a cell phone. And they took this poor lady out of her house in a bathrobe. They raided her house while she was in the shower. And tried to pretend like, oh, well, do you have a grandson? Maybe your grandson got this. No, it come to find out that the app was faulty. We've seen this before. That black woman got treated like a black person. So Mr. Milanovsky got treated like a black person. And you all always like to say, well, why didn't they comply? When police kill black people, the first thing y'all want to say, white people say, well, why didn't he comply? Well, I don't hear y'all saying, why didn't Milanovsky comply? It's a good question. You see, when y'all get treated like black folks, y'all don't like it. Y'all think something's wrong. It wasn't, white people didn't start coming out to complain about the police until their white kids were being shot by police, being harassed by police. Now all of a sudden y'all want to say, oh, well, maybe they should do something about it. But let's get back to Baltimore. According to that report by Jake Tapper, 60% of the guns that are flowing into Baltimore are coming from as far away as 40, 50 miles. See, those guns are not being bought here in Baltimore. They're not being bought in D.C. They're being trafficked into these areas. Excuse me. Did you hear what I just said? They're being trafficked into these areas. So these white people like Brian Milanovsky, is making money off of trafficking guns. And the ATF know they are trafficking guns. And they're not doing anything about it. The question is, Milanovsky must have done something huge for them to even go and stop him. It's yet to be identified what that was. But it's clear that they don't care about where these guns are coming from. Because, see, if you give the local governments an idea of where these are coming from, look, and here's the other thing that came out in that report, is that in all likelihood, some of those guns could be coming from the same store. Hello? So if ABC Gun Store is selling guns, which is fine, that's the American way. I own a gun myself. I don't have any problem with that. It's legal. But if ABC Gun Store is selling guns, and every time there's a gun crime in Baltimore, ABC Guns is 60 miles away. And every time there's a gun crime, 50 to 60% of those guns are coming from ABC Gun Store. We got a problem with ABC Gun Store. So we need to stop ABC gun store. Look, we don't have the gun violence if ABC gun store and others like that store are not trafficking guns into communities that are disenfranchised. Y'all follow me yet? By the way, this all spins back to that DEI thing. Don't want to talk about this stuff. 60% of the guns that are coming into the Baltimore area that are being used for criminal activity is coming from outside of the Baltimore area, according to that report. That should disturb us all. Hello? That should disturb us all. We got a problem. The problem is our politicians who are being paid off by the gun lobby. They don't care about crime. They want to use crime as their campaign slogans, but they don't care about crime. When they were governing these areas, they couldn't do anything about it either because they were beholden to the gun lobby. Those two women, those two mothers, Crystal Gonzalez and Michelle Hines, lost children. I hear people say, keep your head on a swivel when I go into the Baltimore area. I hear that all the time. Because many of the people around here are living in fear, and we don't even realize who's causing the problem. And it's not these kids. Yeah, the kids are the perpetrators, but guess what? If they don't have guns, then maybe some of these violent crimes do not happen. I've often said, there are no airports, landing strips, or boat docks in the inner city. Even in the Baltimore area, where we're right here on the ocean. Okay? Those guns have got to be coming into our community somehow. And the fact that the ATF, and there was an ATF official who was interviewed. He said, it's not that we don't want to share the information. We have to follow the law. And the law says that we can't share that information with local municipalities. So Mayor Scott here in Baltimore, or Mayor Scott in Little Rock, or anywhere around this country, if they want to put together a legitimate means of quelling the gun violence in their cities, they can't even pull the data that they need in order to attack the problem, because white Republicans in Congress has passed laws to stop the one federal entity who documents all of this data from sharing that information with local municipalities. Hello? But you know, they don't, you can't talk about racism here. You just can't do it. You can't talk about the racist things that our government's doing, because, you know, that'll hurt some people's feelings. It's okay that little black kids are killing each other every day. And see, here's the other thing. They don't care. Because there's always an underlying theme here as of right now, and that's 2042. See, their argument is that, hey, if I kill enough black kids, then that'll at least slow down us being white people from becoming minority. Not understanding that, hey, you can kill off every black man except one. He can still repopulate the earth with black people. Even if you kill off every black man and you start impregnating black women, they're still going to have black babies and babies of color. Hello? Their logic is flawed. Because, see, racism is a disease. It warps your mind. And even though you might have a degree, you might have a doctorate, a master's degree, racism still feeds your ignorance. This is a problem. This is a problem that only we can solve. And if you're not willing to solve it, then this is going to continue. And it has gotten so bad now that even black people are saying, oh, these black kids are getting real bad. You're not understanding what's causing the problem. You see, if I'm sick and I heal and then I get sick again, you know what I got to do? I got to find out why I keep getting sick. I don't just ignore. If I go to the doctor and he says, well, you got a science problem and you got mold, well, don't I look at around my apartment or my house and say, well, wait a minute, there's a problem with mold in here. I got to find out what that is. You don't just keep getting sick, do you? Our black communities are sick. What's causing it? Okay? Stop treating the symptoms and start identifying and treating the causes. And the causes is that many of these black communities are being trafficked by white people who are selling illegal guns and substances. I remember a couple of years ago seeing a video that was taken where looked like a white police officer in Chicago went into the black community, pulled up, and just started shooting and drove off. This is happening. We've seen it with drugs. We've seen it with gang violence. Now we're seeing it with guns. They don't care. And then they build their lily white enclaves, they're gated communities where you try to go because you're trying to escape the violence. Black people trying to escape the violence as well. Oh, well, you can't move in here. They put all kinds of criteria on what you need to be able to do to move into here, which is really those criterion is just basically saying you can't move in there because you black. So then they funnel everybody into the same areas that is nothing but chaos. Man, we got to do something about this. This is serious, serious business. We got to take our last break. When we come back, is what we must do. And by the way, if you've been listening to the show today, it should be obvious what we must do. Back in a moment, you're listening to Black Focus Radio. Let me say that again. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On JoyNetRadio.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found skintentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
Skintentional.com?
Yes. Skintentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products, but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, Skintentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils. And yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to skintentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. Skintentional.com.
Business owner, can I talk to you for a moment? How many people have come up to you and said, hey, I didn't know you had a business? Yeah, that can happen when you don't advertise. I have a solution for you. Advertise on JoyNetRadio.com and let the world know that you're in business. I know what you're thinking. Advertising is so expensive. I've got a great package for you that will cut your expense and increase your bottom line. It's only $125 for startup and new businesses. Call me, David W. Coleman, at 615-554-0568, and I'll put together a package specifically for your business. Now is the time to tell the world, hey, I'm in business. Come spend your money on quality goods in my store. Let us help you at joynetradio.com. Here's the number. Call me, 615-554-0568. We are here to assist you in building your brand.
Coleman's Dynamic Products would like to thank you for all the support you've given us over the years. Our growth could not have happened without your purchases and word of mouth to your friends and family. That says you believe and trust us to provide Coleman's Dynamic Products with no fillers and all natural ingredients. We began with our flagship product, Rib Rub, and now it has expanded into snacks, seasonings, salts, rib juice, and pepper juice. We could not have done it without you. I'm David W. Coleman, founder and president, and I want to personally thank you for the encouraging words and support. Coleman's Dynamic Products will continue to be the best dry marinades, seasonings, and sauces you've ever put in your mouth. That's ribrub.com, RIBBRUBB, and you know what we like to say, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh, yeah.
All right, welcome back to the show. It's Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. I'm David W. Coleman. I'm here every day, Monday through Friday, right here on JoyNetRadio.com. We're broadcast all over the world. By the way, if you missed the show, you can always download the podcast. Just go out to your favorite podcast platform and search for Black Focus Radio. We're on YouTube. Go out to YouTube and search for Black Focus Radio. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Go to Facebook, do the same. Instagram, do the same. No one's talking about the stuff that I'm talking about here. There's one other person. I'll give him credit. Roland Martin talks a lot about stuff like this. We need to start spreading the word on how we can fix our community. And this segment is called What We Must Do. Okay? There are a number of things that we have to do in our community. Number one, we have to vote. And we have to vote religiously. And stop buying into this mess that other people are suggesting. That people like rappers who said, oh, I mess with Trump. Some of these people have never voted before in their lives, but they want to advocate for Trump. Some of these ignorant black males who like his machismo, even though he's a crook. We need to vote them out of office. Okay? They should not be welcome to our community. People like Clarence Thomas. He's not welcome in our community. And he probably knew that. That's why he married a white woman. People like Byron Donald, who's a United States congressman from Florida. He's not welcome in our community. Candace Owens, she's not welcome in our community. We need to make sure. Kyle Rittenhouse was in Memphis last week, and I knew when I heard he was going to Memphis that was not going to end well. And it didn't. He was at the University of Memphis. And them black kids ran him up out of there. If you get a chance, go out and look at the video. They ran him up out of there. You see, Kyle Rittenhouse, y'all remember that guy, Killer Kyle, who went to a Black Lives Matter rally with an AR-15 and ended up killing 2 people and shooting another, who got up and is now being sued by the estate of the ones that he killed. And by the way, you remember white people paid for his legal fees. Millions of dollars. White racist paid for his legal fees because they didn't like the fact that people were marching and saying Black Lives Matter. Didn't like that at all. So first of all, we got to vote. You heard me talking about that legislation was passed to keep the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Division, from sharing gun data with local administrations. those people need to be voted out of office. Those same people that have voted against DEI in Alabama, in Arkansas, in Georgia, in Florida, they need to be voted out of office. See, the most powerful weapon you have is your vote. That's why they're doing so much to try to keep you from using it. These same black people who want to support Trump don't realize that there were white people who were Republicans that were on the same ballot, that were in the same precincts, were voted for and won their races. Yet they want to say there was something wrong with the votes, and they wanted to disenfranchise 80 million black voters. We need to vote. And you dumbasses out there who are saying otherwise just don't get it. That's number one. Number two, we need to vote with our dollars. Patti LaBelle made $20 million off of a pie that Walmart slapped her name on it, but Walmart made over $200 million. The contract was that Patti LaBelle would get 10% of the revenue. She got $20 million. Some of us are so simple-minded to believe that, oh, that's great, $20 million, wow. Not understanding that Walmart got over $200 million. Hello? You see, we don't understand the power of the dollar. We get caught up in the dollar amount. Hello? That's what Mayor Woodfin was trying to say, although he didn't say it, is that the power of the dollar is in our children. And if we simply started making sure that our children are going to be treated with respect, then they'll start respecting us. How do we do that? By not sending our kids to their universities, not participating in their March Madness and their college football playoffs. And more importantly, making sure that you spend your money with black people every chance you get. I run a rub business. Even if you don't use the rub, I implore you to at least one time go out and make a purchase of my product. I could use the help. Okay? Even if you don't barbecue, if you will make one purchase, if everybody that is on my, look, I have close to 3,000 people that are considered friends on my Facebook page. Think about this. If you all bought, let's see, if you bought just one order of rib rub, now it comes in a 3-pack. It's $15. If 3,000 of you bought one order, look what that would do for me. And it's not just me, because then I could go ahead and open my business even wider, and then I could employ black children and become their mentors instead of us going to white universities and getting degrees that are worthless. Maybe they become entrepreneurs. But part of the reason that black children don't want to grow up and be entrepreneurs because they don't see successful black entrepreneurs. And they hear what their mamas and their daddies are saying. Man, I'm not going to shop at that black business. You know, black people this, black people that. But you'll go to Walmart and get disrespected. You go to Dollar General and get disrespected. You go to white restaurants and get disrespected. You go to white jewelry stores and they won't let you in the door because they think you're a thug. And then when they finally figure out that you're somebody famous, then you go in and spend your money with them anyway. And when you walk out, they're still calling you a nigger and a thug. And talking about how stupid you is for even spending your money here because we didn't want your money in the first damn place. Hello? I don't care if you're mad. These things need to be said. And I'm going to say them over and over and over and over again as long as there's breath in my body. It's time for us to wake the hell up. It's time for us to say, hey, we've had enough. We spend more money than the gross national product of Canada, the gross domestic product of Canada. We spend more money than the 9th largest nation in the world, yet less than 10% of that money goes into black businesses. Hello? I even hear some people I know, man, I'm going to find me a Mexican who can do the work. They cheaper. So not only are you giving your money to white folks, you're giving your money to Mexicans and Latinos, but you won't give it to black folks. Massa, we sick. Aren't you tired of being sick? This is unbelievable. They don't want you to study history. They don't want to say that they enslaved your people. They don't want to give you a job. They don't want to talk about redlining. They don't want to talk about all the racism that is going on. And you're going to walk around as if everything's okay. Oh, that's just a white man. Ain't nothing I can do. That fatalist mentality. Thinking that you can't solve your own problem. That's exactly what they want you to think, that you can't solve your problem. You don't have the wherewithal, the smarts to solve your problem. Let us do it. And let us give it out to you in stages, if you get anything at all. Massa, we be sick. So, it's pretty simple. What we must do is that we got to turn inward. We got to turn to our brothers and sisters who sit next to us. I say this all the time. Why is it that there are so many churches in our community and none of us have schools? Why are there so many churches in our community and none of them have come together and made their banks? Hello? We can solve this problem. The money that churches take in on a Sunday morning, think about it. Pick the biggest churches in your community right now. Pick 3 of them. I was reading a story the other day about Mississippi Boulevard in Memphis. Mississippi Boulevard in Memphis, which I attended years ago, had over 5,000 members. 5,000 members. They didn't own a damn thing. They didn't own a bank. They didn't own a credit card. Credit union. St. John's in Little Rock, close to 3,000 members. You pick a city, it don't matter. You might own a property around your church, but you don't own anything significant that could change the lives of black people as a whole. You don't even teach black history in your churches. I said every Sunday there should be a black history moment. Just like there is a scripture moment, there should be a black history moment. We don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. Well, no wonder we're in the dire straits that we are. We can change this. Mayor Woodford in Birmingham has thrown down the gauntlet. It's the same thing that I've been talking about on this show for decades, for years. That we have the power. Our power is in our children. And all we have to say is, hey, you're not going to play this weekend. You're gonna make a statement. That's all we got to do. What are you afraid of? We've got to get out of here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Catch us every Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. on Joynet Radio. And don't forget the weekly sports magazine on Saturdays. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word about Black Focus Radio, because our word is pure. Y'all have a great day.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joynetradio.com.